Time Passages, a documentary film review. Looking at other people's lives is always interesting. We can't help but to compare our experiences to theirs, perhaps in a quest to see if we ourselves are normal. Are they the outliers, or are we? This is Reno Lovison, executive producer at ChicagoBroadcastingNetwork.com, commenting on the documentary Time Passages by Chicago filmmaker Kyle Henry, which recently aired at the 60th Annual Chicago Film Festival. In Time Passages, Kyle Henry is tenderly reviewing his relationship between himself and his mother, whose memory is slowly slipping away due to dementia. Henry tells us his mother was an avid scrapbooker who carefully and thoughtfully arranged family memories into creative, visually interesting photo albums. Apparently, the filmmaker is doing with audio and visual media what his mother did for years with paper and glue. He's trying to carefully arrange her fading memories along with his own into a neat package for safekeeping and for the pleasure of future generations. An accomplished filmmaker, Henry utilizes a number of visual techniques together with performance art to tell his story. The use of wooden peg dolls with their dollhouse and car was used very effectively to provide a visual context for recreating discussions with his mother. We learn that Elaine was an art teacher, and Kyle uses a number of artistic film devices to add visual interest. I personally loved where he projected images of his mother's face onto his own. I was drawn to this film as part of my review coverage for the 60th Annual Chicago Film Festival. I look for entries that have a Chicago aspect to them, and Kyle Henry is a filmmaker currently residing in Chicago. That fact, along with a few exterior shots in what I believe to be Rogers Park, is the extent of the Chicago connection to Time Passages. The film does have a wider connection to those of us who have cared for elderly parents and family members, as well as those of us who have witnessed a loved one slip slowly into some state of dementia. It may also resonate with those of us who are beginning to see signs of old age within themselves or others around them, or who have fears of memory loss. After all, our memories as manifestations of our experiences represent the sum total of who we are. In this way, Henry is expressing whether it's necessary for those memories to inhabit a human body in order to be useful, or can they have value in another form? That form could be his mother's physical albums or his documentary film. The production is as much about the documentarian as it is about his mother, with certain self-indulgent qualities that begs the question as to whether this labor is for his own benefit or for the benefit of the viewer. Is this a film about Henry's cathartic attempt to reconcile his relationship with his mother, or is it a film about us witnessing his mother's memory loss? I'm certain that it's both, and this observation brings me to the one criticism I have of this effort. I have a favorite expression: pick a horse and ride it. Henry, like many creative people, tries to cram too many good ideas into this one small parcel. No doubt the film is about the relationship of his mother and him sharing a journey into memory loss. However, Henry sidetracks into the COVID pandemic, which indeed interjected itself unexpectedly into the plotline and has to be dealt with. But I feel his expansion of the topic had a tendency to pull our attention away from the central story. Maybe I'm just a bit COVID fatigued. Likewise, I loved his subplot of the influence of Kodak on the life of mid-century Americans, but it also seems an intruder in this film. I'd like to have seen the Kodak segments cut and that idea developed separately in another project. Looking at other people's lives is always interesting. We can't help but to compare our experiences to theirs, perhaps in a quest to see if we ourselves are normal. Are they the outliers, or are we? But this borders on being simply a voyeuristic activity. I'm trying to ask myself, what is the message and what am I supposed to take away from this film other than a peek into this mother and son relationship? The film's overall vibe was a bit oppressive. Elaine was a singer, but in spite of the creative artistic elements, this production was still kind of one note. I wanted a little bit more rise and fall. We know early on that Mom's going to die in the end, so that's not so much a climax as it is a race towards the inevitable. The sidetracks mentioned above were an attempt to break us out of our funk, but alas were ineffective. The film needed more of an arc, so lacking that, it was better as a showcase of Henry's impressive visual storytelling technical abilities, and less about using this experience as a way to speak saliently to a wider audience with a more universal message. In the end, I can say I appreciate this effort and am glad that Henry made Time Passages for the purpose of preserving and sharing some memories and insight into his mother's life and his. For those of us who may be going through or have had similar shared experiences of memory loss and elder care, it has value by demonstrating that you're not alone in your struggle. It's possible that the raw nature of the content can be triggering for those who may have had a similar recent experience that they found traumatic. It may be a wake-up call for some of us who are not currently aware of how fleeting life can be. In fact, Kyle shares a recording of Elaine telling us basically to enjoy life. I appreciated a number of visual elements and performance art segments that showcased Kyle Henry's considerable talents. However, I think Time Passages will have an appeal to a niche audience, but falls short in regard to offering a single, larger message to a wider audience. The 86-minute documentary Time Passages was screened as part of the 60th Chicago International Film Festival in October 2024. For festival information, visit chicagofilmfestival.com. For film information about Time Passages, including other screenings, visit timepassagesfilm.com. This is Reno Lovison, executive producer at Chicago Broadcasting Network, reminding you to please like or subscribe to our website wherever you prefer to listen. If you're a user of Apple Podcasts, keep in mind that to like or comment, you must do so at the podcast homepage. It cannot be done on the podcast episode page. You can also subscribe at our website, chicagobroadcastingnetwork.com, to be notified whenever new podcasts are added. While you're there, take a look at our review of The Light of Truth, Richard Hunt's Monument to Ida B. Wells, which also appeared at this year's film festival. As always, if you need marketing or video assistance, including video editing assistance for your business or organization, check out renoweb.net.